Welcome to Built to Scale with me, your host, Anthony Mongeluzo. And today we want to talk about something very important. And I think it's probably the most valuable asset you could have, trust and the trust economy. And businesses need to know and understand that the trust economy now is more important with winning customers, more important than marketing, more important than fancy jingles. Because in this world right now, we have a lot of distrust. When you go online, social media, misinformation, fact checkers, you name it. You have before, 10 years ago, you couldn't trust a picture maybe because there was a person really good with Adobe Photoshop and they spent 5 hours, updating it. Now, you could have one of your AI products make fake images in 30 seconds or less. Videos now, can we trust them? I mean, Hollywood should be scared because there's already proof of concepts of AI making 2-hour-long movies with full dialogue and meaningful endings. So what do we have to do as business leaders and business owners to make sure that our organization is trusted? And not only trusted externally, but also internally. Because remember, your team members, they have a choice. They choose to come to work with you, hopefully because they trust and they value you and they value the mission of the organization, not just for a paycheck. So you have to make sure you have trust both internally and externally. And as we know, one of the most important things with trust is this. It takes a lot of time to build up, and one mistake, one time, you might just lose it forever. So first, let's talk about where we start. Most people now, and rightfully so, have a lot of skepticism. What do we get inundated with all day? We get inundated with fake videos, voicemail scams, phishing emails for a number of years, people calling you with wire transfers, trying to steal your money. I could tell you, someone cloned my voice and called my mom and tried to say I was captured to get money off of her. Thankfully, she was smart enough not to believe that. But we have to understand that people are just skeptical. For instance, when we go out and we pitch our 24/7, 365 dedicated team, people are like, oh, well, how do I prove this? I said, well, listen, there's a couple things you could do. One, call our number anytime before you sign a contract. Call our number at 3 in the morning. Call it 1 in the afternoon. Call whenever you want. See if we prove what we're saying. But the other thing that I always say is, listen, I'm the CEO of this company. I founded this company. I bleed this company. So I'm going to tell you we're the best. Here are 5 or 6 people that worked with us for over 10 years that you could call them and ask, oh, you want a couple people in your industry? Here you go. Don't take my word for it. Take someone else's word for it. Because look, as my father used to say, self-praise sucks. So having that good testimonial stack is one solid way to earn trust. Another way that I also say to earn trust is if you're in a community, you need to be active in your community, right? If you're not visible, what are you? You're invisible. And I think by taking part in community events, by showing that you're willing not just to take money from people, but willing to write a check back, go to a gala, volunteer on that golf committee, help on that nonprofit board, you continue to build trust, not only for you, but also for your organization. So another thing that's important, and we kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier, but the proof is in the pudding, and proof creates trust. So what else can you do for proof? Right? Let's go internally. If you know that someone's struggling or sick, right? You don't want to play favorites with people, right? Because it creates for a bad environment. If one employee gets treated one way and another has, a different outcome from the business leader, someone's going to say it's ultimately not fair because as human beings, we all value and respect fairness. And I think most of us, we all have a bit of an ego. And I think that's the way you have to be because you should be proud of your work. You should be proud of the effort. But let's say as a business leader, someone's struggling, a family member has cancer, and you give that person time off and you cover them. You know what? The team members around are going to understand that because they're going to then know, wow, when I'm in a bad situation, guess what? Those folks are going to help me. How about proof is in the pudding when you screw up? We had a law firm that we still work with, and they were extremely grateful. One of our team members messed up a mail roll, and they were paying an ad agency $5,000 a month for leads. Well, the client didn't realize they weren't getting leads for 3 months. They called us in, we worked with the agency, because the agency's like, yeah, you had 30 leads. Well, guess what happened? The client called us and said, listen, we love you guys, but you guys screwed this up, which we did. They said, listen, we have a good partnership because, again, we earned trust. We were loyal. We proved what we did for years and years. But they said, we don't think it's fair that we spend $5,000 a month and all these leads are cold because they're injury attorneys and the cases were gone. So what did PCS do? I approved a $5,000 a month credit, $15,000 to repay them. I could tell you when we send a testimonial over or ask them to be a testimonial, they're going to be thrilled. So again, every business is different. Every team is unique, but figure a way that you could actually show real, authentic proof. And that's going to go a long way in your business strategy, in your marketing strategy. And it's going to go a long way because, again, proof. Trust. Those are things that money cannot buy. You could buy a lot with money, but those two items are not for sale. Next up, let's talk about transparency as a leadership strategy. One of the things I'm very proud of about here is in the number of years I've been in business, I think people have only seen me angry maybe 5 or 6 times. And one thing I will say, when I do get angry, because it's so rare, it actually works, but thankfully I haven't had to be angry in a long time. But what do you need as a leader? Transparency, right? And one, I hate that word, by the way, but we're going to use it here because that's probably the easiest way to, I hate the words transparency and alignment, but that's a different podcast. But think about this. What do people want in an organization? What do customers want? They want to feel secure. If you're Jekyll and Hyde as a leader and you're not open and honest with your team, if Monday you come in, you're happy, you're high-fiving people, and on Tuesday you're in and cursing and, you're just distant and people don't know that they could talk to you or work with you, that's a real problem. Because people need to know what you're looking for, what you're doing, what are my goals, where do I gotta be, but they're also looking for consistency. So I think if you have transparency and consistency, that's really gonna be a way to build that trust. For instance, our live line, you know what? We're not going to get too many passes. Let's say out of 100 times you call in, if we screw up once, we'll probably get a pass because we're human. But, clients, they write a check, they buy a product, they buy a service. If you go to the grocery store, a box of Cheerios, and then the next time you go, you buy a box of Cheerios and it's rotten, it doesn't taste good, you're going to stop buying those Cheerios. And it's the same thing, especially with a business like us. We're a service-based business. And for service-based business owners, we have to bring it every day because these phones don't shut off, right? Let's talk about trust on a different way. Let's talk about a non-service-based insurance salespeople, right? The salesperson can come out, they talk to you once a year for the renewal, they might take you golfing, but guess the only time that you get to know or trust that insurance agent is in the worst time of your life. It's when that claim hits. I remember, I got my insurance from the building. Thankfully, everything turned out all right, but I called my insurance guy. We had a horrible flood over the weekend. And literally my roof looked like a pool. And of course it's on a Sunday when you're trying to chill. And that was a pretty bad Sunday for me. 9 months after I bought the building, by the way, as I'm watching my building drip, the first call obviously was to get a restoration company out, but my insurance company got the call and my insurance rep was like, yeah, you're totally fine. We have you covered. Focus on recovering your building. So the next day I called for an update. Well, I was looking at your policy and it was rainwater, but it came kind of because the drains were clogged. So wait, you're telling me I'm not covered? No, you're more than likely good. Okay, trust is starting to waver now because I went from the last day, perfect, now I think you're good. Well, ultimately, this went on for 3 or 4 more days, which is very painful when you're looking at a 6-figure plus recovery because, like I said, it was bad. Ultimately, it worked out okay, but I have to tell you, every year when I look at the policy now, I ask more and more questions. What if this happens? What if that happens? Do me a favor, send me an email, put this in writing. What if a flood hits this way? What if it hits that? And remember, as you're looking at these things, you don't think it's going to happen to you. Never in a million years did I think my building would flood, and especially within my first year. So again, with all of these things, you just make sure you're transparent. Make sure people know what's going on. Make sure you communicate in a strong language. The answer should be yes, no. You know what? I don't know the answer. I don't want to speak on it. I will get you an answer by XYZ time. It would have created, because the outcome for me at least, when my trust wavered, the outcome was the outcome I wanted. But the ride was a little bit like a New York cab ride. Little honking, little too much shaking, but we got there safely. So mission accomplished, but not maybe the best way. So be open and honest with your people. Be open and honest with your customers. When you make mistakes, Say, I made a mistake. Be the first to apologize. Don't try to cover it up, because a lot of times the cover up is worse than the crime. So think about what you could do to be more open with your team. Think about what you could do to be more open with your clients. A simple solution: schedule just regular cadence. Maybe it's 15 minutes you put on the calendar with certain people, certain clients, and you might not even need the whole 15 minutes. But again, you're creating more transparency by communicating. And when you communicate, use your voice, high speed voice technology, right? Don't type. And when it matters the most, you need to be there in person. You need to breathe the same air, share the same room, and that will be the ultimate in transparency. So we're in the world of social media. Everyone's a news journalist, right? Everyone has a camera. If you have a phone, you have a camera, you have a video recorder, you have everything you need. And look, you have companies that do all this branding, all this marketing, and then guess what? Their CEO does something stupid, makes a comment that might be unkind. You might remember, the McDonald's CEO was showing his new burger off and barely ate the thing. And what did the other brand CEOs do? They went on and devoured their food to show how good it was and how they liked it. One little misstep. People love the brand, they dig the brand, but now they can see what you do, and what you do is the brand. If I go out and represent PCS as a community leader, and, hey, our leadership team is involved in different boards and we get involved and we do different things. And then you go around the community and you don't see PCS, if you don't see us sponsoring things, if you don't see us volunteering, if you don't see us supporting, that's a misalignment with the brand. What you're saying does not reflect what you do. And what you do, I would almost arguably say, is more important than what your brand says you do. Because sadly enough, bad news travels faster than good news. You could do something really nice, and yeah, sometimes you'll get those viral moments, but I can tell you this, you do one thing slightly wrong, it's gonna have a much larger chance going viral. So again, look at what you say, but back it up by what you do. Brand reputation today is really personal brand recognition, right? So whether you work somewhere as an employee, whether you're the CEO of the company, there's lots of different brands, right? So let's break it down. PCS has a brand. That's the logo. That's the people that really don't know the people here. They might read our newsletter. They might see something online. They might, see something on Facebook or LinkedIn. Oh, that's pretty cool, right? That's the company brand. Then you have your leadership team, and each one of your leadership team members, whether they're office head, CEO, they're gonna have a personal brand, and the personal brand for the CEO especially better be in line with what the company's saying they're gonna do, because at the end of the day, you could be the smartest CEO, you could be a great strategist, good at execution, a marketing genius, but if you're not connected and if people don't believe in you, guess what? The business is not going to work, or it's not going to work at its best. Now, let's get down to the employee level, the team member level. Guess what? You also need to have a brand. Guess what? There's people in here that come in late every day. They're branded for being late, right? There's people that come in here that will stay late, work hard, help anyone. Guess what? They have a brand. And that brand that they develop also helps them move up in the company. It helps them get chosen for different positions. Just earlier today, we had our Employee of the Quarter meeting where we have a lot of leaders come in, they plead the case. Proud to say it was a really tough call, like it always is. It's getting tougher and tougher. But when people were stating their case, some of the negatives came out, such as too many call outs, too late. And guess what? That hurt their brand. And there's people that have been nominated for Employee of the Quarter since we've been doing it for the last 4 years, probably every time. And because they didn't get their brand fixed, they, while being recognized as one of the finalists, they didn't win the prize. So again, what you say is more important than what you do. Think about like this to close this up. Your reputation is really a gap between your marketing strategy and your business. So make sure that gap is filled, because if it's off, there's going to be other gaps in your organization. So for some final takeaways. Trust is the ultimate human capital. It's the ultimate business capital. And if everything goes down, if the economic system were to say collapse or the grid shut down, trust would even skyrocket even more. So in recap, business leaders, you need to communicate openly and honestly. You need to let people know what you're doing, but also more importantly, the why behind you're doing it. People need to understand the mission. You want to be clear, you want to be concise, but you also, while you need to be a strong leader, you also need to have that emotional connection with the team. You need to have that emotional connection with your customers. If people like you and trust you, you have more opportunities to fix a problem when there is a problem. A lot of times when there's a problem and fingers get pointed, the problem isn't the problem. At the end of the day, though, what I always like to say is, do you want to be right, or do you want to have a customer? So listen, whether it's a customer problem, employee problem, communicate live. Don't be an email warrior. I hate the folks that, they send you a stinging email, and as soon as you're face to face with them, or you're talking to them, it's a different tune. It's the same thing, and we've talked about this in earlier podcasts, when customers would call in and just demonize one of our team members, and then they get on the phone with me like, "Hey, Ant, how's it going? You were just yelling and foaming at your mouth with my team member." And if I just let people talk to our team members that way, guess what? The team member's not going to trust me, and they're going to think we're phony. Hey, employees, team members, you're valued. Oh, but customers can treat you like crap and say what they want because they're sending us money. And we've actually fired customers over that. Lastly, as I mentioned earlier, when you make a mistake, say you're sorry. That is so important. Be genuine with it. Tell them why the mistake was made, how you're going to fix it, and more importantly, to create more trust, how it's never going to happen again. What steps are you putting in place? So at this point, business is a strategy, right? Business is a strategy, but it's not going to be done without trust. And the ultimate way to ensure that people will trust you is proof. Proof in your actions, how you respond, what you do. And it's not just what you do to them, it's how they see you treating others. So hopefully this was helpful to your business. I could tell you again, for 25 plus years, trust and proof have been really a compass for our success here at PCS, but I'd be remiss if I didn't leave out strong culture, because that's also, that's a top 3 for me. So thanks so much for tuning in to Built to Scale with me, Anthony Mongeluzo, and we'll be back with some great business leaders, more ideas, and some other community leaders. So we'll talk to you soon.